Okay, so now we have our lining and our exterior pieces. Now, at the end where your zipper tab is, if you lay your entire purse right sides down on your table, hold on to your lining and pull your lining away from the zipper tab. Don't yank it because it's not supposed to be yanked. You will see, if I can turn this around and show you, you will see that the seam allowance sits proud. Now what you're going to do is you're going to use your finger to open up that seam allowance and hold it flat. Now what it should do is sit just inside of the edge of your zipper tab. So hold it in place. And what we're going to do is we're going to stitch across the edge of the zipper tab on the exterior, which will catch that open seam on the inside of our lining. Don't worry about the rest of the lining. You're just trying to catch the open edge of the open seam on the back there. I hope you can see it. I'm not sure if you can actually. Let me just move my finger down a little bit. So there's the open seam on the back of my, on the side of my lining panel. And it should sit, if you pull it gently, it should sit. So you can actually see there, the very top of the very end of the zipper tab. And what you're going to be doing is stitching across and catching the edge of that nice open seam. Now, I haven't got my threads long, top and bottom, so I'm going to do that because I want to be able to bury those threads. It isn't an essential. If you want to just back stitch either side, then you can do. Now I like to stitch from the inside. You can stitch from the outside, whichever suits you. I just think if I stitch from the inside, then I know that I've caught the threads, the seam allowance rather. I haven't actually left long threads. I've back stitched both sides, but I'm just literally just going to try and show you. Just get rid of the end. So now I've let go of it, you can actually see a little bit better. So that's stitched inside, and that's the edge of the, you can see there, the very edge of the zipper tab from the outside, but this is the inside. So the lining is open, the seam allowance on either side of the lining is opened, and that end of the lining is now attached to the back of the zipper tab. From the exterior, you can't see any of the lining at all, just the zipper tab. If you turn it up that way, you can, but from the exterior, if you just fold it up, you can't see any of the lining at all. So, having done that, you can now pull your lining. It will pucker up your lining a little bit on one side, but don't worry about that. You can now get rid of any long threads that you've got. These just drive me nuts. I do not know where they come from. Constant. So, having done that, we're now going to take our completed zippy. Well, it's not completed yet, and we are going to match up the corners on both sides. And it just takes a little bit of manipulating to get the corners all together. Now those top ones will have a fold on the top, because you can see there's the fold. The same on this side will have a little fold, so you need to just kind of push the zipper tab so that it's pointing, so that it kind of elevates a little bit from the top of the purse. Match up those folds, match up those nice neat hemmed top bits, match up the bottom corners, match it up as well as you can. If you find that there's a fraction out, then you can trim it off. It's not the end of the world, but ideally, and if you've cut perfectly, then you shouldn't have an issue. This should all match up. Put lots of clips in. Lots of clips is always the way forwards. now I've got all my clips in, everything's hunky-dory, except for I still need my pocket. So having done all the clipping, I now put my pocket on, and I'm literally just going to lay it over the top where on the front. Now bear in mind which way your zipper's going to open. So you want your zipper, if you're right-handed, to open that way, if you're left-handed, the other way. So having clipped them all, I just literally lay my front pocket over the top, and I will just move one clip at a time to make sure that it's attached. I find trying to clip all three together at once quite challenging, so I find this is the easiest way for me. There we go. So I've just now added my zipper pocket, and now I can stitch all the way around the outside through all of the layers. Now I'm going to use again, an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. I will use my awl to make sure that those top corners stay together, because this really does need for the corners and everything to stay completely together. Now I'm not back stitching, I'm not burying my threads at the top of this line of stitching. I'm just going to do a couple of back stitches just to secure my stitching. And I'm going to use the awl on the top corner of my pocket to make sure that that doesn't move as I stitch over it. Your awl is a bit like an extra finger, and one that actually won't hurt if you stitch across it. So you can get it quite close to the needle without fear that you're going to bleed at all, which is always not a good thing. Now it depends on how stable your faux is. If your faux is stretchy, then this is always going to be an issue. So picking the right faux leather for this is essential. The very stretchy stuff just will not work. So you need something that's relatively stable and not too stretchy. Certainly not the stuff that's got the 4-way stretch, nor the stuff that is the lightweight dress fabric type faux leather. So you need to be picking carefully. This also works really well in cork. And again, I'm just using my awl to make sure that my two top folded edges stay perfectly together as I go over them. And there we go. Now, if you've got any little tiny bits that appear to have moved, things that look like they might not be quite square, and that does happen, you can trim them off. I mean, they're just slithers, literally, not enough to worry about almost. And there we go. We are pretty much almost there. So I'm just going to add my little zipper charm that I've made. And I've already edged this one, so I'm just going to look for my green. I'm going to use a green Sharpie on this. If you're going to use an edge paint, then use an edge paint, but make sure that you follow the manufacturer's instructions. This one actually has a nice black edge, so I don't actually think it really needs covering at all. But there are some little tiny bits where it's lighter, where the actual vinyl is. So I am just going to go around the edge with my green Sharpie just to cover that up. And there we are. insert your smaller purse into the front of your larger purse, and there you go. One quickie nippy zippy. And that's not easy to say when you've had a couple of glasses of gin, I can promise you.